in Space is out now, the latest Third Doctor Adventures box set from Big Finish, starring Tim Treloar as the Third Doctor. And so, to get ourselves in the mood for this six-part epic with the Third Doctor and Sarah off on an asteroid, we decided to take a look back at a previous Third Doctor Adventures box set, going back to Volume 8 from October 2021, featuring two four-part stories. The first of which, Conspiracy in Space, stars Tim Treloar and Katie Manning as the Third Doctor and Joe Grant. The second, The Double Superprints, stars Tim Treloar, Sadie Miller, and John Coleshaw as, obviously, Third Doctor, Sarah, and the Brigadier.
Which is a nice throwback to Sontarans versus Rutans as well. So it's a double throwback release, this is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think both these stories sort of tie into this new box set, which we'll be feasting our ears upon very shortly, I would imagine. We're recording this the day before it comes out.
Yeah.
When this has been released, I imagine we'll have at least tucked into a couple of parts by then.
Yeah.
But obviously, you've got Conspiracy in Space in this box set. The new box set is called Revolution in Space, both riffing off, Frontier and Colony in Space, that style of Third Doctor Adventure title and story. But then also we got a bit of Sarah in the Double Superprints, so they both work quite nicely to tie into this upcoming box set. Well, upcoming for us, a day away.
It's out now.
By now, it's out. And
yes.
We'll get a review out of that shortly. But for now, where do we stand with Conspiracy in Space? This Frontier in Space prequel/sequel?
Yeah, this is a weird box set, I would say, because obviously Volume 7 was the first box set entirely of recast, and arguably it's my favourite in the range.
It's a very strong one.
You have this box set, and then you have The Annihilators, the start of the relaunch. So this is sort of a weird in-between point, and it was the first year, 2021 was the first year where we got two Third Doctor box sets. And I think that this box set is somewhat forgotten, and I can see why, because Conspiracy in Space, it very much feels like it belongs in sort of the BBC Books Past Doctor Adventures range. It doesn't feel very Big Finish in a way. The writing feels very somewhat out of character for Joe and the Doctor, I would say. For me, there was a few little out of character moments for them.
I would say the Draconians also. I mean, they've appeared in other Big Finish releases as well before this, but it almost feels like a sending up of what they were on TV. Like, it's sort of introducing a lot of new lore for them that just feels like, it's going over the top versus how they were presented in Frontier in Space. I mean, the story itself is about the Grand Widow summoning the Third Doctor and Sarah to Draconia as her son, or not? Is it son or grandson?
I think grandson.
One of the two. Yeah, the young Emperor, the one who they later meet in Frontier, is getting married. But there's some intrigue going on.
Which give me a sort of flashbacks to another Third Doctor adventure, Havoc of Empire, which, my God, is one of the worst Third Doctor adventures.
This does feel more like it belongs in the earlier days
yes,
of Third Doctor adventures rather than the later ones. It feels like an odd sort of hangover.
Yes, it does, because the working title for this story was called On His Draconian Secret Service.
Yeah. Or Draconian Majesty Secret Service.
Yeah, Majesty. Yeah, it's Draconian's Majesty Secret Service. Yeah, because this is very much sort of trying to go for the espionage in space, James Bond, Third Doctor link, and I don't think it works quite well within this.
No, I wouldn't say so either.
No, it's a bit of a damp squid, because it's trying to do all the classic little hallmarks of like the mining thing and all that. and trying to start the war, between Draconia and Earth. There's sort of tensions.
Yeah, you got the
rising on
weapon
both
of mass
sides.
destruction, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. It's not a gravitron, but it's magnetron, I think, is in this.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Um, yeah, it just doesn't seem to quite work, and it's a chunky story, and you're listening to it, and not a lot's happening in it, really.
It does feel like it doesn't make the best use of its time. Like,
Yeah.
particularly in part one, it feels like there's a lot of going around in circles.
Which I guess Frontier's criticised for being a game of cat and
Yeah,
mouse,
that's
get locked
true.
up in that. But in this case, I think this is done more worse than it is in Frontier, and I love Frontier.
Yeah, I think for me, though, the main criticism I can throw against this story is that the whole time I spend listening to it, I just sit there thinking I'd rather be watching Frontier in space.
Yeah, when I
mean,
finished
sometimes...
I was like, I want Frontier now. I'm in the mood for it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, a story getting you in the mood for a certain classic story isn't a bad thing. I think when you're sat there the whole time thinking, I'd rather be watching that rather than, just get in the mood for that. I might put that on later. This is just, you're not Frontier, are you?
Yeah, because the Draconians are such a unique alien race, and I think this does some interesting things with like Ladies In, but I think the standout Draconian is Barnaby Edwards, because he's really channeling sort of the John Woodnut Draconian, I would say, and I think that's when I'm like, oh yeah, this feels very much like the Draconians of Frontier.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Or hear that more accurately.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, there's some jokes that I think land quite well in this. There's one particularly about the literature that a certain Draconia has been, reading, and how that comes into play. I think that joke is executed particularly well there with Ladies In, and Joe as well, Katie Vanning, giving a good little comedic performance during that particular segment.
The thing with Jo is she's busy making pop culture reference, and I feel like Alan Barnes watched The Three Doctors and just probably assumed that's what Jo's character is, making weird pop culture references. And I think that sort of grated on me as the story went on.
Yeah, maybe it did one too many of them. I mean, one compliment I can very much give this story is it does evoke those model shots that you would see a lot in Frontier. Like, something about the way the music and sound effects combine in this when those particular moments are happening. You do sort of get that feel of those transitional shots where, you'd go from an interior and then you'd have the ship going through space before you.
Yeah, like the Grand Widow's
interior.
Yacht, and especially towards the sort of climax of the story when you've got the ship heading towards the magnetron to sort of block it. That's all. Yeah, you can imagine the model work there.
Yeah, I think that is all done particularly well. So, yeah, certainly I can wholeheartedly commend that. But it's just, it does mostly come down to the writing of this one, I would say.
Yeah. Should we rate it?
Yeah.
What would you give it?
5.
I'll agree, because it's not bad and it's not great. It's just kind of there.
I think there are probably one or two Third Doctor adventures that I'm less keen on.
Yeah.
But not many.
I was hoping revisiting this and I'm like, right, I'll get it this time. I'll fall in love with it.
Yeah, because I did feel very much the same on the first listen, to be honest. And I was going back to this now hoping, okay, some time's passed, maybe I'll have a new perspective. But yeah, like you, it didn't really improve for me. I mean, would you say it got worse for you, or?
I think it did, because I think I give it a 7, I think, originally.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can't say I was too keen on this one on re-listen, sadly.
And it sort of felt a bit choppy towards the end.
It took me a while to get through, particularly the end. Yeah.
It was one of those ones where you finish and go, thank goodness I finished it.
Yeah, it did become a bit of a chore.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was sort of getting through it in hopes of getting to our next story, The Devil's Hoofprints, which is about a real life mystery that happened back in Victorian times, I believe. Was it the 9th of February?
It was for the night of the 8th going into
the morning
9th.
of the 9th.
Yeah.
And what was the year?
Oh, God, you put me on the spot.
Have a guess. I know it now.
I'm going to say 1868.
55.
Okay.
I just looked it up. Yeah. Because that's what we young people do.
Yes.
Down in Devon, this mysterious event occurred where after a blizzard, thousands of hoofprints just appeared in the snow, a whole trail of them leading for miles and miles. And it was never really explained at the time. It was one of those
It was
urban
monkeys.
mysteries. Who knows? Yeah. And so this is Doctor Who doing a story about that. Or is it? Does it answer the question, or does it leave it a mystery still? You'll have to listen to find out.
Now, I'm a big fan when Doctor Who does sort of these folklore things. Like this story very much has the same sort of feeling I get of Grey Man of the Mountain, that sort of cozy feeling with like in the vicarage, them having sort of tea and tea cakes, and talking about this creature and.
Yeah, I mean, it's set across 2 time periods, this story. You've got mostly a brigadier-led plot in the contemporary times, the 70s, the unit periods. And then, meanwhile, you've got the Doctor and Sarah back in 1855 at the beginning of this mystery, trying to work out what's going on there, what this man, Chilton, is really up to. And so it's sort of taking some very Third Doctor feeling elements, isn't it, of this research lab where,
it's the Pertwee side.
Mad scientist is experimenting on things, isn't it? It's
the Pertwee side meets the Damons, I'd say.
Yeah, it's very much taking those folklore elements, but
mixing the post-nuclear gothic.
Yeah, mixing them with your usual Third Doctor twinkle, I would say. Whereas something like the Hinchcliffe era would go more full on into that folklore, go a bit more horror based. This is doing something more Let's and It's.
Yeah. It teeters around it, but you get enough of the basis of what it is.
Yeah, and also if it's riffing off any story, it's riffing off the Time Monster, because again, that sort of has, a starting in the contemporary times with the Brigadier.
Yeah.
Before the Doctor and Sarah are thrown back into the past to confront the true threat. But yeah, for me, this was another one where I was less keen on first listen. This is actually my 3rd listen now for this review, and still parts of it aren't working for me as a whole. I think that there are a lot of great individual moments. A lot of the stuff in the past really works for me. I love the feel of so much of the story. Like you say, there's a coziness to it.
I think it's a snow setting of, this sort of snowy Devon setting.
Yeah. But even then, you've got, in the present day, it's set in the summer. And I think there is a cozy feel to that where, the Doctor and Sarah arrive at a pub with the Brigadier. Something about that does feel rather warm and inviting in a different way. I think you've got wonderful characters within this one. You've got Derek Griffiths playing
a brilliant vicar.
Yeah, Reverend Mr. Wolfsgrove. Yeah, this wonderful vicar character. You've also got Sir Basil Hexworthy, played by Robert Dawes.
This is the second throwback review of the year that we've done with him in.
Is it really?
He was the governor in Dalek Occasional.
Yes, he was. Yes, I recognise the voice now. They bounce off each other very nicely. They almost have a Jago and Lightfoot-esque double act between
Yes,
them.
yes. When the story finishes, you're like, this is so setting up a spin-off.
It would be wonderful. And then on top of that, you got Mrs. Plimtree.
Yes,
Carolyn
who
Seymour to
finally
complete
gets
the
a
trio.
T-tray back, which this story's got some wonderful Third Doctor action set pieces, with the Third Doctor using a T-tray as a sledge and the hot air balloon sequence. But the brig does get a nice little action moment. I think this story does the brig well for what bit he's in, with like his character duty, the difference between a hunter and a soldier. I think that was all done very well.
I think for me, my issue is how that is portrayed on audio. Because, action isn't inherently a bad thing on audio. I think just before this, like we were saying, Volume 7 of the Third Doctor Adventures, how amazing that was. The Unzal incursion from that box set is a very strong action story. There are a lot of action pieces in that work really well.
Yeah.
And, there's sort of a balance, isn't there, between explaining what's going on without it just being characters saying what's going on. There are ways to tell action scenes on audio without going too far in one direction or the other. This feels like it goes too far in the direction of not explaining enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're sort of just left going, okay, that was a bunch of noises. What actually happened there? Oh, I still don't know.
Yes.
And it does feel very repetitive as well. I think the Brigadier gets blown up about twice, and then
I think that's a weaker side of it. I think the brig stuff is where I sort of do drift.
You're sort of unclear on the character motivations within, like, is he being allowed to survive? Is he just incompetent? Like, what? Yeah. That does very much leave me very cold. No pun intended. And I think a lot of it, how it wraps up, also just didn't do much for me.
It's a very short part 4. It's 22 minutes.
It doesn't quite get the balance right between, the setting in the past and the present. Which is a shame, because like I said, there are moments I really enjoy within this. There's some great characters, but just the plot itself, I feel, has some huge flaws within it. So it doesn't quite come together as much as I want it to. But I do feel like there's a lot of good within this and a lot to enjoy. But yeah, what would you give it out of 10?
I'd go a 7.5. I think I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sort of part 2 in particular, and that sort of setting. I loved it.
I'd probably go a 7. Solid 7. Yeah. I mean, would you recommend this box set as a whole? Because we have been a bit more negative than usual in these reviews. I think it's fair to say.
I would say it's worth for Devil's Hoofprints, but I wouldn't say it's like a day one pickup if you want to check out the Third Doctor Big Finish stuff. I think there are better examples like Volume 7, Annihilators, Volume 5, to name but a few.
It's sort of like one of those ones that if you want to complete your Third Doctor Adventures run, you might as well, but there's lots of better ones out there to experience. Particularly if you're looking for the first Third Doctor Adventures box set, if you've not yet experienced Tim Treloar's take on the role, this probably isn't the place to start, I would say. No. I think there are far superior box sets within the range.
And every range is going to have its weaker sets, and I think this is towards the bottom end of it, but I think it's still a shining example of why this range is very good. The music's always fantastic.
Yeah, like a lot of the elements that are usually strong throughout the Third Doctor Adventures run are present and strong here.
Mhm.
Like Tim is magnificent.
Yeah,
I mean,
Tim's great. I love him in this.
same with John Coleshaw, Sadie Miller, Katie Manning, all on fine form. But yeah, it is just these stories themselves aren't the strongest. There are better ones out there across these many, many box sets at this point. Like we said, the 13th box set is out now. I mean, maybe that one will be more worth your time. You have to check out our review of that to see what we think there.
I look forward to it because
Yeah,
we've
me
not listened
too.
to it.
No, we haven't. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say really about Third Doctor Adventures Volume 8. This nice little throwback, you know.
Yeah.
I don't regret doing it.
No, I had a good time. I had a good time listening to it. Maybe Conspiracy in Space, I was glad to go, right, that's done now.
Yeah. I think it was nice to give it a second chance.
Yeah.
But a shame that didn't pay off. And yeah, I don't think I'll be going back to it again anytime soon now.
I mean, we like to be positive, and I think, you know, we're very honest. You know, we don't sugarcoat it. If we don't like it, we'll say. But yeah, for this one, this just wasn't for us.
Yeah. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
But maybe it was for you. If it was, let us know what we're missing out on in the comments below.
Make us re-listen to it again and go, yeah, I see it. I see it.
Yeah, maybe you will provide the missing piece for us to make this one finally click. But yeah, if you did enjoy Conspiracy in Space and the Devil's Hoofprints, then please do say in the comments if you agree with us. Maybe you really liked Conspiracy in Space but couldn't stand Devil's Hoofprints.
Yeah.
Put your thoughts out there. Leave a like while you're at it if you've enjoyed. And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.